Hey everyone, Ekman here with another video, and we had a pretty big weekend for the Riftbound card game. We had some large events that were kind of like the record breakers for in-person events for the English version of the Riftbound card game. So some really exciting results. We're going to go over the deck list for them as well, but in case you guys are new, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe. We make a lot of content for the Riftbound card game, and I don't want you guys to miss it. Also, if you guys want any deck lists for these events or many others, you can find them on my website, Eggman Events, which is linked in the description and is what's behind me right now. We do a lot of event coverages for events that have happened already for the Riftbound card game. We're going to continue to get more and more as we get them, and we do have this giant deck list table right here that has almost 200 deck lists as of recording. We're probably going to overshoot that pretty quickly, but just a really good resource for anyone trying to get into this card game as well. So I also do want to thank just all of the organizers for these events as well, because they are very, very helpful for getting the deck lists in general, and they all live stream them as well. So there's going to be a bunch of links in the description if you guys want to see any gameplay, any footage, any more content. You can make sure to check that there. But we did have, for this weekend specifically, we did have the Riftlab Contenders event in London where they had 48 players. We had the CCS's Atlanta 12k weekend where they had 257 players, and we also had the SCG Con Las Vegas 10k where they had 386 players. So over 500 players playing across 3 events is just super, really great for what this card game's looking like. Obviously, a lot of people are trying to get ready for Houston, which is going to be in a couple weeks, and it should be exciting as well. We're also going to host our own event. It has been sold out, but we will be hosting it next Sunday, so there will be some more events and coverage for that as well. But there are just so many people who are trying to get into this right now. There's been a lot of hype around it, and I think there's a really good reason why, right? This game is like very complex to get into, but there's just a lot of rewarding for being able to make the right plays and get through them as well. So we do have the top 8s and 16 respectively for both of these events, or all of these events really. So we do have the Riftlab Contenders event. So there were a top 8 of 3 Master Yi, 2 Sett, 1 Kaiser, 1 Yasuo, and 1 Viktor, where Sett was the winner for this event. We also did have for the CCS Atlanta event, we did have top 16 of 8 Kaiser, 3 Master Yi, 3 Annie, 1 Sett, and 1 Misfortune, where Sett also took this event. And then also one kind of like asterisk for the SSG Con Las Vegas. They did do 9 rounds of Swiss into a top 8 cut where they played 1 round of top 8. And as far as I know, they did kind of lose the venue at the end of the night. So top 4 did also split the top 4 prizing across them. But for theirs, we did have 4 Kaisas, 2 Annies, 1 Sett, and 1 copy of Teemo. We didn't have a winner definitively for this, but we do have all the deck lists for the top 8. So we do have that there. They also did provide like the legend breakdown for this event, which I think is really cool. So we do see that there's 38% people on Kaisa, 16.6 on Master Yi, 7.7 with on Ari, 7.1 on Viktor, and then 5.6 for Sett, Teemo, Misfortune, a just under 5% for Annie, and then kind of a 9% for the other legends in the game. So we are seeing obviously that a lot of people are on Kaisa. I don't think that's too surprising for it, but even with that the case, we do see just a lot of variety, I think, in these top 8. I think there is this kind of general case that I haven't really made a tier list video for this game, but if I was to make one, I'd say that best deck in format is likely going to be Kaisa. I think like the top 3 outside of that will probably be Master Yi. Sett is my bias, which ended up working out really well for this weekend, and a lot of people have been doing well with Annie recently. And then there are kind of just like a lot of contenders from there. We see Teemo, we see Misfortune, we see Yasuo, we see Viktor, all decks that we're going to go over today as well. But there is like still a large variety of not only like different color combinations and different legends, but just different decks in general. And again, we'll see that there are some decks where there are different engines you can run with them as well. So that's kind of my spiel. Again, if you guys want to check out any of the deck lists, you can find them on my website here. If you guys want any of the live stream, they're linked on all of the pages here with the respective links to the people doing the production for it as well, and to the tournament organizers, so you can check out all that and the sources for these deck lists too. And we're going to jump on into it. So we've got 8 different legends we're going to go through. If you guys want to check any of them in particular, we're going to have timestamps in the description, but we're going to start off with our first place list. We've got 2 of them. We have yehosera and Collin Kaiser with their builds of Sett. And also, just you're going to look at these builds, there are going to be some pretty big differences for how they work, which I think is really, really cool. So we're going to start off with yehosera's version of the Sett here. And we do have kind of, I would say this is more similar to the build that I've been playing. If you've been watching any of my content or looking at any of my socials, Sett is the deck that I play. It's the first deck that I built for this card game. And if I was to enter any event at any time, I'd probably be playing Sett unless I just did a lot of practice on another one. And it's the one deck in the game that I think that I'm the most versed into how it works and kind of some of the intricate things. Because I will say, and this is my bias too, there are just a lot of ways to play Sett, and there are a lot of kind of like intricate rulings for it. There's a lot of like different plays you have to make because you are kind of low on resources. Sometimes you got to make sure that you get those sequencing correctly, because you do have a lot of like these reactions or way to kind of interact with your opponent aggressively as well as defensively. So I do say that I haven't really seen anyone play the Seal of Strength in this deck, but we do have a lot of ways to use our might and lose our runes here. So we do have some reason for it. I do feel like we run out of cards in hand a little bit more than we run out of runes, but if this is important for you, that does help you in a lot of ways. We do again have a lot of cost for a lot of cards, including like the Showstopper, the Sabotage, right, the Primal Strength, the Kiana, also our 5-drop champion, which this set is just still like the card that makes this deck really work. In my opinion, it's just very great. It's very difficult to remove. You can just always kind of protect it, and then you can have it conquer something on the next turn, which is really good. So other than that, we do have like the Karma, which I've been a really big fan of this card in the last little bit, even though like sometimes it just means like, oh, I just only get to put one buff on something. That's usually just kind of enough for this game, right? Usually I also have to just bottom deck the card that I really want to draw next turn, which is kind of like an unintended effect of this Karma here. But part of the reason I also like this is because we can use the battlefield for it, but we're not even opting for that. We're just saying, you know what? We're just going to be able to, just get the one copy of, the Karma itself, be able to get that effect. We also have Divine Judgment, which, each player chooses 2 units, 2 gear, 2 runes, and 2 cards in their hand, and you have to recycle the rest. So this does also proc our Karma. It does also mean that you only get to keep 2 units, so it's karma and something else, but sometimes that can be enough, and generally by the late game your opponent is affected by this more than you are. So I think this is a good add for some of these matchups for you. We have a lot of ways to get some buffs and everything, and our sideboard, again, we have to put on Yielding Strength and Salvage, I think, at 2 copies at least for each, and then you have kind of a 4-card sideboard afterwards. So other than that, I think nothing too crazy. This is kind of a build that I'm used to. But then we also do have Collin's build, and this one's a little bit different than anything I've really seen from Sett, which is really exciting to see not only him take it, but just win an entire event with this kind of more atypical build in my own experience. So the main thing is that we're using the 4-drop Kingpin Sett as our at least beginning champion. The fact that this is a tank unit that also says I get +1 for each buff friendly unit at my battlefield, which can include himself, which is really nice. And what the kind of idea from this is that we are just kind of more bunkering on one battlefield. We make it really, really difficult for your opponent to take it. And even if they do, you still have these situations where you can still save your buff units. You can use them again next turn, and it's not really as big of a cost as you would expect it to be. So we do have some low to the ground. We've got Pit Rookie, Sithri of Cloudfield, and Daring Poro. We do have like our challenges. We do have Arena Bar, which is also just a really important tech card for this one, since it can just give our Sett a buff when we wouldn't have it otherwise, which is really nice. There's some times when you can use like Challenge or Hidden Blade to, on your turn, KO your own things. You get to save it with your Legend effect, and then you can use the effective Arena Bar to give it the buff anyways. So I think all of that can be very strong. We do have a top end of, again, like our Kinko Monk, the Kiana, the Fiora, and then also the 6-drop Lee Sin. So the fact that this also just has Accelerate, your other buff minions, other buff friendly units get a +2 at your battlefield. So the fact that this can essentially be like an 8 power might kind of card very easily is nice. And whether you're using this set or the other one, you do find this pretty often. But we do also just have a side board where we do have the 5-drop, again, the slightly more popular, I think, set for this deck, but we can just be very flexible. If you can say, you know what, if we're going into the matchup where this one's just a lot better, we don't have to even worry about it. We can switch into it. In the builds that I play, normally I just play both champions anyways, because I find that they are both just generically useful for the deck. But just deciding, game 1, I don't need to play the 5-drop. I think the 4-drop is generically better, and then just to switch into the 5-drop afterwards, I think is a really neat idea, and obviously worked out very well for them. So this is the build from Collin. Congratulations for their first place finish there, and to all our Sett players. Like, I'm really happy to see Sett do well. It's been my favorite legend to play in this game, and it's been I've been really happy to see other people find success with it, and with like different builds than me, which is also just really exciting to see. So there it is. All right, next up we've got 2 second place lists, and we do have Igor's version of the Master Yi, as well as Luna Love's version of Master Yi, and you're gonna see that both of these are are just completely different builds. I think this is pretty kind of common knowledge at this point that Master Yi has two prominent builds in general. We do have kind of the Aurora build, which is the build that we have for Igor, and then we also do have Lunalovee's version, which is more of like, I don't know, like the super shield defender. I don't know the best way to call it this one, right? But it's the one where you just spend a lot of resources on defending your little boys on like battlefields and stuff. Like your Stalwart Porter is like the best card in this deck early game because it can just take a battlefield and then just keep it for a very, very long time, right? We do still have our top end of like the Tasty Fate Folk, White Flame Protector, and our Dead Bloom Predator as well. But then the other thing is that we kind of get a battlefield early. We have some interaction like the mid game to get some removal from us. We hopefully have like our Master Yi, which we can put out take one battlefield, hold it, and then the next turn we can buff it with like a White Flame Protector or something. Just a lot of like good interactions for this deck to be able to, one, be very good defensively. We don't have that many units in the deck, but the ones that we do have are very strong. We also see stuff of like Wielder of the Water. This being able to essentially be a 6 might on defense by itself is just very tough for a lot of decks to interact with cleanly, which is really nice. We do have some defensive spells as well, like Discipline, Unguard. Charm has been continually just a very great card in this game as well, so that's been very strong. And then kind of our sideboard, again, Unyielding Spirit, you have to kind of have it in your sideboard with Kaiser running around so much, but it is nice to have a way to interact with them. Another White Flame Protector, our Sabotage, Rune Prison, and the Catalyst of Aeons here. So this is a build of Mastery that I'm a little bit more familiar with, and that's because I don't I don't have copies of Dazzling Aurora like most people in this game right now. This card is really tough to get, but there's a reason for it, right? It's a very strong card. It is an epic as well, and it's something that you can really build your deck around too. So for this build, right, we do just kind of have the standard stuff of like, we don't have that many units, right? The only units that we have in the deck are White Flame Protector and Dead Bloom, as well as Mountain Drake. And these are very chunky cards that are difficult to interact with. And because of that, we do get a lot of great interactions, especially since we do have a lot of ramp in this deck. We do have like the Mobilize, we do have like the Medication as well. Actually, sorry, this one's more of just a draw card. We don't actually, oh, there it is, Find Your Center. Sorry, I get these two cards confused all the time. But like being able to have these ways to ramp, we do also have like the Wind Wall in the main. Again, Mobilize, Unyielding Spirit has to be played. Pretty much anyone who's playing body right now, but being just having access to it is fantastic. More Sabotage for like the mirror match and also against Kai'Sa. And then again, like we just hope we see that we get our Dazzling Aurora on curve and like our first one. I mean, with this deck, there's like no bad targets, right? It's like either we get an 8 might, or a 10 might, and obviously I think Dead Bloom Predator is like the best card to hit at least off your first one because it's very good. Just claiming a battlefield that it might not have had any reason to get, but you will be able to get that interaction there, and then kind of the rest of the deck as it is. But again, this isn't my favorite way to play Master Yi, but I do recognize that it's very strong. There are some maybe consistency issues, and like kind of the difference between this build, which is like mildly less consistent, but has a higher ceiling for how good it can be. Kind of conversely, we do have this version where, you do have a lot of like good interactions and you can be like mildly consistent, but the ceiling can only go so high with this one, right? At the end of the day, you are just kind of playing some mildly weaker units that you get to buff up. You do have some good interactions off, again, Defy, Unguard, Discipline. Charm can just steal you games as well. But your top end is like just, the same kind of top end cards, but you don't have as easy of a time getting to them either. So I don't have much more to say about this. Master Yi's been clearly very, very strong in this meta. A lot of people kind of bouncing between both builds. And if you don't know what your opponent's build is on the first turn or so, like you might have like mulliganed incorrectly, which can be also just a big boon for you as well. So these are the two builds we're going over. Congratulations to Igor and lunalovee for their finishes there. All right, next up we've got Kai'Sa, and we do have like a variety of Kai'Sa to choose from. And I'm going to be honest, as someone who kind of inputted a lot of these deck lists and looked through all of them, more or less, there are all the same, right? There are some key choices for what your decisions are. I think like the battlefields for Kai'Sa are a little bit open-ended for which ones you like. I think most people are playing Dreaming Tree. I think this is probably the most common since you can target your own stuff. I've been seeing people play like the Void Gate. I've been seeing like Zorn Rorns, which not too bad, right? To get some cycle here if you need to. Vile Mauslayer is a bit of a tech choice for it too. Units cannot move here from base, so being able to use this to kind of lock something down can be really good too. All these cards can be great, right? I think honestly that Kaiser does have like a wide variety of battlefields that you can take advantage of, and not necessarily the ones that you need, but ones that can kind of fumble your opponent's plays a little bit. So that can be very good. So other than that, you guys kind of know the key cards I think for Kaiser at this point. There's not anything I think too wildly different in the build here from Ryan, but I think it's like a really good template for anyone trying to get into the deck in the first place. So we do play 2 copies of Kaiser, right? If you only have 1 copy of this card, I think you can still play the deck, maybe not at like the super high competitive level, but just having 1 I think is more than enough for what this deck wants to do if you want to start playing it. Obviously a very good card. The fact that it doesn't have any might is great, so you just play it for 4 and you get to put it on the board here. If you want to play it for 5 and get an acceleration with 1 might, you can still do so, but the fact that also you can just draw the card off of it. If you go second, right, it's just so easy to be like, cool, well, for 4 I'm going to play this and then I'm going to move it, and then, or sorry, if you go second, so on 5, if you're just going to play it, you're going to move it, you're probably going to conquer something, you're going to draw a card. Just good business here for Kaiser. Other than that, we do have all of our spells of Stupefy, Cleave, Hex Tex Ray. Retreat has been, I think, a newer add to a lot of blue decks in the last little bit, but this has been a great card to not only like save your Kaiser for maybe later, but also just like this also channels a rune, right? You get the saving from it, and you really don't mind like in the later game to replay your cards if you're going to get value from them too. So that can be great. It does also help us get to Legion sometimes because like Noxus Hopeful or Darius can both just be very good cards for us to play. Obviously Darius, if you play a second card, which can include himself, it's the second card, you do get that additional like +2 might, and you get to ready him, so that can be good. Thousand Tail Watcher, this card can just win you games by itself and at least win battlefields, since this -3 for the turn across the board is just unheard of. And then I have been seeing a little people playing a little bit less of the signature spell, but it can still get its usage, right? 12 damage across the board can't always be bad, so that can help you, even though it can be like a little bit clunky and a little bit expensive at times. It can help you in some situations. And then Time Warp, again, a lot of people deciding if this card is good or bad. It can win you the game, or it can just be doing nothing and stuck in your hand the entire game, right? So there's like this decision point of like if you want to do this, but if you get to like 6 points or like 7 points, this can just be like, okay, this can guarantee an 8-point conversion in so many situations. So I think like playing the card is not outrageous, but it is something that you have to make sure that you can consistently use enough to justify playing 2 copies of it as well. So other than that, our sideboard I don't think is anything too wild, except for maybe the Burn Her Thunder Song here, being able to when you play me, your opponents can play cards this turn, which is obnoxious to deal with. There are some decks that just have a lot of interaction on the defense side, specifically like Mastery. They have all these defensive spells, right? Just to be like, well, you can't play any of them now, and now you can just attack over your stuff. It feels good to be able to know that they can interact with your stuff, right? And it conversely feels bad if you realize that your opponent just played something that shuts down your entire turn, right? So I think this card can be very good. I've been seeing people talk about it, ways to play it on your opponent's turn with some of the new hidden cards that we get from Set 2 as well, but it's a cool tech add as well. So other than that, just kind of our standard blue and red stuff here as well. I think Fury in Mind has been, very good. Kaiser's been very good. Nothing too outrageous from this list, but I did want to still go over a Kaiser list whenever it tops, because you got to know what the deck looks like if you want to try to beat it, or, if you try to get into the game. I think Kaiser is definitely one that, even though the deck is a little bit expensive, it does go far. There's a lot of strengths from this deck, and I think it's the best deck in the format right now for a reason. So again, here's the build from Ryan. Congratulations for their top 8 at the, actually I think top 4 at the SCG Con in Vegas this past weekend. All right, we've got next up Annie, and we've got 3 different decks across 2 different events, and I kind of want to just kind of go over all of them, because you will see that Annie is a little bit, I would say, solved, because there are just a lot of common cards that you play in it, but there are some kind of key differences between them as well. So we do have Dizzee, we've got Robert, as well as Chris with their builds. And first, what you'll notice is that these 3 decks are all running the same battlefields. I think this is something that is kind of solved, at least with Annie, is that these are just the three battlefields you run right now. There might be like a reason to play like a third one over it, but being able to the Dreaming Tree, being able to just draw cards is great. We are kind of an aggro rush deck, so Arena's Greatest is very good for us to be able to get there a little bit quicker. And then Zon Warrens not only like helps you like find the cards you need, but we are really dependent on our Vi in this deck. So this has ganking, but also recycle one from your trash to give me +1 might for this turn. This is not a once per turn either, so there are a lot of situations where if you have 10 cards in your trash, this just becomes a 13k for no good reason in those situations. And I think honestly, Annie is like one of the best decks to continually put cards into our trash. We have stuff like Stack Deck, which will add itself to the trash. We have like the Traveling Merchant. Again, we have the Zon Warrens as well, which we just kind of mentioned. Scrap Heap as well, being able to use this to discard, to draw a card also. So like, there's just so many ways for you to get these effects, and like you play so many spells so quickly, you're gonna find yourself like these Vi's can get very big very quickly because of these effects as well. So we are also playing Fury, right? So we have to play some of the good cards like Kaiser as well as Darius, as we mentioned in the Kaiser profile, right? We do have to play some very expensive commons such as the Flash, right? Move up to 2 friendly units to your base. So just move 2 friendly units to base. So either side, you just move them to base. So that is, you can move any of your battlefield units back to your own base. So that does help you save, especially for stuff like Vi, where sometimes you do just attack with it and then you want to be done with it. And in the fact, like, right, Annie, you get to get 2 ready runes every turn. So just being like, all right, well, I attacked with Vi and I want it to attack next turn. I don't want to lose it. I'm just going to flash it back. And then again, I just put one more card into my trash to recycle for my Vi effect. And now I can attack for like a big like 6-7 might. And still like not lose the card, right? You just get a lot of recursion from that, which is really nice. So other than that, I have been seeing like Sneaky Deckhand be like obnoxious in early game, just being able to play me into an open battlefield. If you go second, you're just like, cool, I get an immediate point, and then if we start off with like the Arena's Greatest, I'm 3 points out of 8 on turn 1, which is just like, I'm going to, as long as you get to hold it afterwards, like it's just very good on like defenses wide. Like you just get to push your agenda very quickly. So this is Dizzee's deck, who got I believe it was a 3rd place finish, top 4 finish at the Rift Labs in the Atlanta 12k for this one. So I was able to get a top 4 finish with this one. So in a 257 event, so that's pretty good there. But then I also do want to mention that we did have 2 other decks that I want to go over. So we have Roberts and as well as Chris. These are both builds from the SCG con as well, and there are some like very similar cards as well. I think you'll notice that again, like this is like a really understood color combination of what cards are actually like really good in this format right now. You will see some minor differences, right? Like Falling Star. In Kaiser, this card is broken. In this deck, it's a little bit expensive because you do have to recycle 2 red for it, but being able to do 6 damage is still worth it in some situations. We have Rebuke as well, being able to return a unit to a battlefield to its owner's hand. So again, you do have to recycle 2 Chaos Runes for it, but just being able to get like, removal, even just for tempo, is very good in these situations too. We do also have like some builds of like the invert timelines, right? Which it's just a one of in this deck, but we are definitely a deck that we just run out of cards so quickly. So there is a reason to just keep using this card to help us refuel our hands. The fact that you also discard them again is very good for Vi, because it does let us do that kind of effect again to recycle it. And then one kind of like other thing I do want to mention is that Annie does have 2 somewhat viable champions, right? I think most people play the I would say the standard one. This is the one from the challenge set itself, but it's just when you play me, you return a spell from your trash to your hand. So pretty standard there, especially like if you need to get like even like another stack deck, being able to get like flashback or any of these cards, it does help you. But there is also the chance to use the other champion. So this one also from the starter here. So your spells and abilities deal 1 bonus damage. So honestly, if I was to play this deck, I would highly consider just having 1 of each, one in my main deck and 1 in my side deck, depending on the situation. I think a lot of people are very, very aware of like the spell damage limits for a lot of cards that exist in the game right now. And because of that, using this Annie here can help you in these spots, right? For example, one easy example is Sett, right? Sett's like, oh, well, I am something that has 4 HP, 5 HP with my with my buff on defense. So I'm like, cool, I'm going to use Void Seeker, and then I'm just going to do 5 damage to you, right? That's the difference between Sett living or dying with a buff, right? So that kind of damage is huge, and being able to up convert on that can be helpful. So I think that's something that's worth mentioning in that sense. You do have to have like Annie on board and then play the card, so it's a little bit expensive, right? But it is something where I think you do have to be aware and just be respecting what kind of these damage thresholds change to. So like the fact that you get to do 4 damage twice with this means that you can now get rid of an 8 might or like a 7 might. I know a lot of people are playing like 7 might cards to get out of Falling Star. Just being able to use this Annie to get rid of it instead is huge in its own way. So I don't have much more to say about this though. I have been really interested on playing Annie because I have been seeing a lot of people be very aggressive and very successful with the deck. I do think it's a little bit expensive if you didn't get like the challenge set for it, but if you did, like, you just need to find a couple more cards, maybe just some expensive Kaisas, we'll see. But it's definitely been getting up the rise on like viability in the last couple of weeks, so it's been really cool to see here. So congratulations to all our Annie players, including Dizzee, Robert, and Chris for their finishes this weekend. All right, from there we've kind of have, I would say, again, best deck in the game right now, Kaisa. I think the 3 underneath it are probably Master Yi, Sett, and probably Annie based off these events and seeing it do well. And then we kind of have like this kind of like 1.5 to 2 range where there's just a lot of like legends that I think are viable that kind of up hit into getting into like a good run for a day to getting into a top finish. And I think that's kind of the 4 decks we're going to talk about for the rest of this video, which are going to be Teemo, Yasuo, Viktor, as well as Misfortune. So we've got the build here from Kyle, which is their build of Teemo. And I'm going to be straight up honest, this is probably the deck that I have the least experience with in this video in general. So don't take what I say 100%, but you should already know that anyways. But in case you guys don't know, Teemo has this effect. You can pay 1 to hide a card with hidden instead of just, recycling a rune. So it does help you like not ramp, not need to like lose your runes every turn. So that can be helpful. And then also for 1 and tapping it, you can put a Teemo unit you own into your hand from your champion zone or the board. So the reason you want to do that is that we do have this Teemo scout here. So it's a 2-drop, you get to hidden, and then when you play me, you get to get +3 might for the turn. So you get to get like a +4, which is really good. And then there are some times where like you pop it, you use the effect to get the +4, but then it's back down to a 1 might unit. So you want to protect, you want to bring it back to your hand, and then you are able to use it hidden again too. So that can be additionally helpful with the deck. So we are playing an additional copy in the deck since we are playing 2 of them, but that does help us. And then I'll be honest, like just Mind and Chaos have like some of the most obnoxious cards in this game right now, right? We've got stuff like the Smokescreen, we've got Stupefy, we've got Gust, we've got like ways to move stuff, right? Like, and then we have all these hidden cards too, which again, we are playing the Bandle tree as one of our battlefields where you can hide an additional card here. So you do have the chance to, hide 2 cards, and that can mean like a Teemo. You also do have like this kind of mind game kind of tactic where since you do play so many hidden cards, you can kind of be like, oh, I'm playing this one instead of this one, or like your opponent's expecting it to be Teemo and it's something else. Like there are just a lot of chances for like, oh, they're playing around a specific card, and then it's just consult the past and I get to draw 2, right? So all of that aside, I think there are just like a lot of synergies with it. It's definitely kind of like a mind game deck where your opponent has to kind of make some guesses at times on what they have to play into and play around. And then our late game is still pretty solidified of having 1-2 copies of Singularity. This card's been very good for getting rid of some chunkier bodies on the board right now. We do have the Thousand-Tailed Watcher, which again I've already mentioned is one of the best cards in the game right now. This just punishes a lot of boards and almost always guarantees a battlefield the turn that you play it. And we also have the Dr. Munda, which in this deck in particular gets a lot of value. So my might is increased by the number of cards in my trash. In the start of your beginning phase, you get to recycle 3 from your trash. So it's very easy to play this on curve, and this, has like 10 plus might because it does, you do have so many of these hidden cards. The fact that you are playing the hidden cards means that they hit your trash a little bit easier, and because of that, you do get the additional benefits from this one. So other than that, we do have like, again, just a bunch of spells that, what's our situations? Are we playing against a lot of weenies where we need to bump them back to their owner's hand? Are we playing against a lot of like medium-sized chunkier bodies where that -4 is like the difference between winning and losing a battlefield? And then also like the Rebuke, the Spirit Mother, some more singularities if we have more units that just fall into the 6 damage range. And then lastly, the Risa, cost 1 less for each card in your trash, just kind of a little bit of a tech add there. But being able to have more units to kind of put on board in the mid game is really important. So not much more to say here. I haven't done a lot of testing with Teemo, but maybe I'll do some in the next couple weeks. I definitely have been seeing some people get some success with it, including Kyle with their finish here in Vegas. Congratulations for their top 8 with Teemo. Next up, we've got Yasuo, and this is Ollie's version of the deck here. And this is just a deck that, just inherently based off like the lore of like Yasuo, or maybe not lore, but just like knowing like League of Legends, where he's just like a really tricky, like really movement based legend, right? It really translates well into what they chose to do with him for this card game, right? So we are kind of a deck that we're not really playing that many units. We're kind of somewhat depending on our champion unit for helping us kind of carry the line as it is. We're very movement based, since we can pay 2 to move a friendly unit to or from your base. So there's situations where you can, attack with something and then move it back. And if you do so, you can help protect it against a lot of removal options that exist, which is really great. We've got Back Alley Bar, which gives us a +1 when you move a place. Dreaming Tree, we have, I will say like Calm has like some of the best self-targeting spells in the game right now. So this is almost a guarantee. And then Candlelit, this just kind of helps us find the cards that we need a little bit more consistently, which is really nice, including the kind of cool combo which is the Nocturne combo here. So when you look at cards from the top of your deck and you don't draw them and see me, you may play me for recycling 1, right? So that means that there are a lot of cards in this deck. So we, easiest, vision, if we snipe it off the top, we get to play a 4 might for just 1. Like it's kind of like a hidden card that you get to play proactively, right? We also do have Stack Deck. We also again have the Candlelit, which will help us find it a little bit more as long as we get the spot there, because you can look at the top 2 to help you find it. And it's just like really cool to be able to get these cards off the top of our deck in these situations, right? Because otherwise we're not really playing that many units, right? We are playing Kayn, which if we have moved twice this turn, I don't take damage, which is kind of easy to do in Yasuo, right? When our leader or legend ability does give us this movement, it does make it, very easy for that to happen. We do also have like Ride the Wind, right? Move a friendly unit and ready it. So that will help you just additionally do that as well. And then kind of the rest of the deck as it is. So I do like the Risa, the Sunderer, because we will have a lot of spells in our trash very quickly. White Flame Protector is great for kind of bumping up some of our boys here. And this looks like a really, really interesting build that I really want to try to get some more testing with, because again, it looks like you can be really consistent. You have a lot of card draw. You don't have that many units, but you do have a lot of ways to kind of manipulate them, which is really cool. So I don't have much more to say about this one, but this is the build here from Ollie. Congratulations for their top 4 finish with this Yasuo here. Right, next up, we've got Crowcola with their build of Viktor. So this is again for the London event that happened. And Viktor's just kind of been, in my mind, like a weird conversion leader, right? It's almost always like the top 5 played leader, legend in any event that I've seen really since the release of Origins. But it's almost never topping, right? I think that it's the conversion for this deck is kind of low compared to a lot of other legends that exist right now, especially with how many people are on it. And I do think that it is a bit of a budget deck, right? We are seeing that this is probably one of the cheapest decks to be able to play successfully, but it is like in this weird spot where it's very, very tough for it to, I think, survive into a top cut scenario at the same time. So the battlefields that we chose are Arena's Greatest, which I think this one, again, is pretty understood for this deck. We are kind of more of a like mildly aggressive deck, and we do have a lot of body, so we do want to, try to pressure our opponent early. We do have Teferian War Camp, which, because we play so many tokens, we usually have more units than our opponent, so this helps us more. And we also do have the Grand Plaza, which I think like this won't necessarily ever win us the game, but the fact that if you have like a really stacked like battlefield, your opponent's going to have to kind of like attack into it to remove some of your tokens, because they will just actually lose the game if they don't respect the power that this battlefield can have. So if you guys probably kind of already know, right? The legend ability, pretty easy for 1 and tapping. You get to play a recruit token. I think the yellow Viktor has been generally the more popular of them, just because this does kind of, if your opponent doesn't have an answer for this can generate 1 to 10 tokens, right? So this has like so much value in this deck in general. Call of the Week has been a great card since we're almost always going to be ahead on the unit curve. You can kind of force some awkward trades for your opponent. We've got Treferian Glory Seeker, we've got Yordle, we've got the tokens, which I'm a big fan of Sprite Call in this deck, especially since we're playing the Hidden Blade, right? Like your opponent's going to try to play around this, and instead they're going to, maybe play into Spirit Call. The fact that this also can just make us a Sprite and move it early is really helpful for us as well. We've got the Falling Comet, right? Just deal 6 to unit a battlefield, so good enough. Grand Stratagem, right? This being able to like bump up all of our tokens into 6 might units, which is just insane and can win us like a game on the spot. Singularity, as well as again the Thousand-Tailed Watcher. So we are like, this is probably like the majority of the cost of the deck. Unironically, if you have 2 copies of this, if you have 1 copy of this, like you have half this deck, money wise. So I think the rest of it is pretty understood for what you need. We do have like the Retreat, which is really good to play on your 4-drop Viktor if you're playing against a deck that has a lot of interaction for it. Salvage, again, if you're playing against any Dazzling Aurora stuff. And then I have been a big fan of Imperial Decree, even though like it means that you're kind of straight up losing tokens. I think this one's a little bit more flexible on being able to get like your removal. The fact that it's like an action as well. They both are actions, but it's like 1 cheaper is actually kind of important for this deck. And I think both have kind of their uses. But I have been, again, a big fan of this Imperial Decree in this deck in favor of it instead of the Grand Stratagem. So other than that, I think this deck is in a good spot. I think a lot of people are on Viktor, but again, it's very conversely interesting that I don't see as many people top with this deck, despite, again, a lot of people on it. But here's the build from Crowcola. Congratulations for their finish there. And to wrap up this video, we've got Danny with their version of Misfortune here. And, Misfortune, I'd say, is like the 2nd best Dazzling Aurora deck in the game. 3rd best if you think that Volibear is a little bit better. I have been seeing that top a little bit as well, but it just makes sense like why this is a really good Dazzling Aurora deck. First, our 5-drop Champion Misfortune is a pretty good card. The fact that, the first time I move, each turn you can ready something else that's exhausted. This means like literally anything else. It can mean any of your units. It can be your legend. It can be a rune. It can be so many things, right? The flexibility of this card cannot be overstated. So it's just very good to be able to say, you know what? If I've got nothing better to do, I'm just going to use this Misfortune, play it out, and then move it. I have to use Accelerate for it, but that's not too shabby for if I'm not really doing anything else for the turn. Being able to give something ganking for this turn is great when, you just pile up all your cards onto 1 with like the Mound Drakes and the Mind Splitter, and then you need to move it to the other battlefield to be able to get points too. Like being able to give like this Volibear ganking is kind of absurd in its own way, right? The fact that it's Defender, right? When an opponent moves to a battlefield other than mine, you get to draw cards, right? There's just so much interaction. We're also not playing like the name escapes me, the Dead Bloom. We're actually not even playing Dead Bloom in this deck either, which is surprising to me, right? I think a lot of people have been playing it with the, understanding that it's one of the better cards for this deck, but we don't even mind like saying, you know what, we're going to just earlier, play some cards out in the back, right? Like this kind of like outside of Dazzling Aurora, this is kind of like actually one of the cheaper builds I've seen for kind of a Dazzling Aurora build with Misfortune, because we're not playing the Dead Bloom there too. So Mind Splitter, though, definitely one of the greatest cards in this deck, though. When you play me, choose an opponent, they reveal their hand, choose a card from it, and they discard it on a card that's like not even like that expensive, right? That interaction is great. The fact that these big old 10 might vanillas is good enough to just like make it so your opponent can't really, they're too big to interact with sometimes, which is nice. And it really all just kind of depends on like finding our Dazzling Aurora a little bit more consistently. But when we're playing stack deck, it's a little bit closer, every time we play this, so that helps it a lot too. So I don't have much more to say. I know a lot of people are playing Misfortune. Again, the consistency is not always there for me. I do find that's a little bit missing at times, but when this deck goes off, it really goes off. Congratulations to Danny for their top 8 here. So that's going to be it for this one. Thank you guys so much for watching. And if you guys want any of the deck lists, you can find them on my website, Eggman Events. We're going to continue to update this throughout the Origins set, and also we're getting more and more knowledge for Set 2, so we're going to continue to update that with that as well. And I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of changes as we get to Houston, which is now only a couple weeks away, which is also very exciting. So that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you all next time.